You know what's so funny is that like the last talk that Vitalik gave that was put up on YouTube, he mentions like divorcing your wife like at least 3 times. It's like, well, you wouldn't want to necessarily trust every single application and QR code, but you might end up unexpectedly divorcing your wife or something.
Sure.
Like
You see, by executing your contract.
that. Right. He was joking about that.
Awesome.
Are we live?
We are live.
All right, I wanna go.
Waiting for Niren though. Just I hope they can hear us through this thing.
The quality is good.
Mm-hmm.
Not getting great.
Awesome.
Nothing here.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, can you hear us?
Yes.
We can't hear you. I think you're muted.
Let's try.
Let's see.
Oh, let's try the audio over here. Actually, we might be able to hear you. Give us a second.
It's me.
You're in the right place.
You're in your right place. Keep turning.
Keep turning.
It's negative.
Okay. Right, turn up.
All right, try to speak now.
Hello. Can you
Still negative.
Still negative.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I think that's. I turned
Can you
all
hear
the
me?
way up.
Hey, what's going on?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Oh nope.
Wait, it's time.
Okay, now can you?
Hello.
Oh hey, all right. We can hear you through one thing, not the other.
Okay.
Set default device. Oh, found it. Okay, now it should be going through the speakers.
You can try it now.
Yeah.
Okay, try talking now, Niren.
Hello.
So going through the
Can you hear me?
speakers. We're attempting to.
Okay.
What about this stuff here? That's part of it.
No, it's disconnected because it's HDMI. I think if this is loud enough, we can just do it from here. Okay, I think we're pretty much set up. Let us know if you hear an echo or anything.
Sounds good to me.
Wonderful. Okay. Voice. Well, awesome. Thanks so much for joining. We'll take a seat over here and we can get started.
We open.
Yeah, sure.
Welcome, everyone.
I'll just sit right here and with everybody.
Okay.
All right.
No, this is El Paisa.
Everybody, welcome to the Dallas Ethereum Meetup number 3. Right now, we're going to have a few dApps showcasing tonight. So we have Consensus, representative from Consensus talking about their energy trading on the blockchain system. We have Dynamis talking about their insurance on the blockchain system. And we're going to have me, Hudson, talking about my marriage smart contract on the blockchain. So first what we're going to have, is it pronounced Niren?
Neuron.
Niran. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Neuron. I started getting involved with blockchain stuff back in late 2013, which is really the worst possible time to get interested in blockchains because things were priced a little bit high. But after reading everything about Bitcoin that I could, I heard about some guys who were building a decentralized prediction market platform. And that was really interesting to me because I'd heard about what prediction markets could do, how they could give you accurate predictions about pretty much any event by just letting people bet on the outcomes. So that sounded like an awesome thing to work on because like anytime somebody tries to start a prediction market, it ends up getting shut down as online gambling. But if you have a decentralized version that has no middleman, then you can really allow those forecasts of every event to be created without anybody being able to shut them down. So as I started participating in Augur and contributing code there, I kind of I'd heard about Ethereum before, but I didn't really know why it was so special, why you would want Turing complete blockchains. But slowly it became clear that like if you can run any program on a blockchain, then you can define any economic interaction and represent that data on a system that nobody can forge, or you can trust that any promise that anyone has made, there's cryptographic evidence of that. So then you can react with your information of how well they fulfilled their promise. Or if it's a completely information-oriented transaction like finance, if you're sending money, if you're trading stocks, if those live on the blockchain directly, you can do all of those without needing any middlemen. So that was fascinating to me. So I started working at Consensus, working on Gnosis, which is their prediction market platform. And then I started working on a project that I started called Benefactory, which is a platform for decentralized nonprofits. So that's me. The project that I'm going to talk about today is Transactive Grid, which is our energy project. So you want me to go ahead and dive into that? I will take that as a yes. So the Transactive Grid project is basically an effort to tokenize energy and allow it to be traded on a blockchain. So let me see if I can pull up the slides that I have. All right. Can you guys see the slides? I will take that as yes. So the Transactive Grid project allows energy to be represented on a blockchain so it can be traded. There's some introductory material in here about what a blockchain is, but I think some of the things I just said, touched on that, and this as well. So what every industry is kind of starting to realize is that if you have this ability to represent all these different kinds of economic transactions on a blockchain, then you can build, basically the ground is shifting under every major industry. Every industry needs to figure out how decentralized economics affect their business model and their ability to continue to profit. Some of today's industries, their business models will have to change to cope with the ability for all the economic transactions that they're based off of to be done without middlemen. So in the energy world, one of the big things that they've been facing is the decentralization of energy, the ability for energy to be generated not just at a power plant, but in any home by putting solar panels on the roof, or wind, all sorts of renewables. One main characteristic of the renewables is that you tend to need less big infrastructure because you're not burning hazardous fuels to generate your energy. You have solar panels that can go anywhere. You have wind turbines that don't necessarily need to be clustered in the same place. So there's this world of decentralized energy that our current electricity grid isn't really built for. One way to think about our energy grid is this giant debt system that you hook up to, because if any time you try to draw energy from it, the electricity is just going to flow to you. It's the physics of the actual power. You can't say I'm going to pay for this amount of energy and that's all the energy you're going to get. You're going to get energy until they disconnect you from the grid. So it's effectively a debt system, and blockchains are great at representing that debt. You can represent debt in terms of the kilowatt hours that you have pulled from the grid and place those as debts on the blockchain. And if you've produced kilowatt hours to place onto the grid, you can represent those as credits on the blockchain. And you can trade those to allow people to settle up their debts with their credits and allow people who aren't the power company to produce credits and sell them to people who need to pay their bill. So that's one of the big points of the Transactive Grid, is the ability to allow prosumers, people who aren't just consuming energy but also producing it, to be able to sell energy to other people in the marketplace. So basically the focus of the first version of the transactive grid is to make sure that the local renewable energy benefits can be transacted between neighbors. If I'm buying from my neighbor, there's lots of reasons to prefer that over buying from the power plant. My neighbor's closer to me, there's less energy lost when it's being sent over the power grid. There's less, since it's also renewable, there's less actual pollution being created by it. People should want more energy to be generated locally to them, especially since it allows local grids to be more resilient in the event of something bad happening to the power grid. Decentralized energy grids are more resilient because if you have a microgrid, which is a grid that can be disconnected from the main power grid, then you can still operate even when there's something going wrong with the rest of the grid. So that's one of the big parts of this project in Brooklyn. There's a neighborhood that has a microgrid, but they have no ability to transact with one another to be able to trade that energy without the energy company being involved. So the blockchain allows us to build a marketplace for them to actually be able to do that on top of the existing infrastructure that they have today. So the neighborhood is it's called President Street. That's in Park Slope in Brooklyn. So then the idea behind all this is that as energy generation decentralizes, then more and more people will be able to transact and price energy with their neighbors directly, rather than having a price set by us as the people who are running the market. You could have prices that fluctuate over time because the amount of solar energy that can be produced over time varies. It's easier to produce it during the day than at night, so you'll have cheaper energy at noon than you'll have in the evening when you get home. And then we also want to allow the ability for people to buy not just based on the price of the energy, but how the energy was created. We have this ability to create tokens for anything on blockchains. And if you have some sort of rating agency that you trust, someone who's going around saying that this is green energy, this energy has been produced sustainably, etc., you can have this ability to sell tokens of that kind of energy. And there's a lot of people who will pay extra to get those to achieve their ends in the world. So basically, what we talk about when we talk to energy companies is this ability to allow them to cope with this decentralized energy future that they're aiming for. They know that they have to adapt to decentralized energy generation because it's coming. There's no way to stop it. It's getting cheaper and cheaper to deploy solar energy, and if the energy companies who harness that opportunity most effectively are going to be the ones who are able to compete based on price and based on values to their customers. Customers who want to produce their own energy will seek out energy companies that can actually accommodate them. So here are some kind of demo wireframes. So this presentation is before we actually did our deployment in Brooklyn. There's a news article that I probably can't pull up quickly, but if you Google transactive grid, I think it'll come up. Basically in that actual neighborhood, we had the first transaction of actual energy on a blockchain ever in the world. This was about a month ago. People actually traded energy that they produced with each other using a system like this. I won't dive into the wireframes, but that's basically the transactive grid. We now have this ability to trade energy on blockchains, and it'll allow people to sell energy to each other as more and more people are producing energy themselves, rather than relying on energy to be produced by centralized power companies.
Awesome. Are you able to hear us now?
Yes.
Wonderful. We were having some audio troubles. So I had a question. You were referring earlier to being able to sell certain types of energy on the blockchain, like green energy. Is there a way to validate the type of energy via the blockchain, or is it just general trust that the type of energy they say they're trading is that energy?
So when I talk about blockchains, sometimes I like to refer to them as just fancy pieces of paper. Like it's this big piece of paper in the sky that has these special properties that let you trust the things that are actually written on the piece of paper. But if you just write on a piece of paper that, hey, this is green energy, trust me, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. You have to take those the same processes that we have in the real world to verify various things. If you go to a grocery store and something says it's organic on it, you might trust that, but you might want something that is certified organic or certified fair trade, and then you're trusting the person, the brand on that label, to actually be the one who's making sure that they give their brand out to the people who are meeting their standards. In the same sense, you would need some sort of oracle, which is a general term for people who provide outside information onto a blockchain. You need an oracle to go out and verify that a particular producer is actually producing green energy. They might say they're producing green energy, and then every once in a while you go and you check, what's their actual capacity here? Are they issuing more tokens than they have capacity for? If so, then maybe they'll lose their certification. But if everything looks right, if they're issuing the amount of credits and they have all the solar panels that are necessary to actually produce that much energy, then they're probably being honest.
Interesting. Anybody here have questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. So I'm interested in this whole system of credits and debits, I guess, as you.
Oh, the audio cut out. I heard the beginning. Still nothing. So I still can't hear you, but while you're working on that, I'm going to ramble a little bit about credits and debits in the hopes that it might address some of the question that was being asked. So a lot of times, people who've been involved with cryptocurrency for a long time, the most interesting part of it is the fact that you have this token that has a limited quantity, and it's not based on the same sort of debt-based currency that we have in today's world. And while that's a fascinating thing, I think it's important to recognize that blockchains, and Ethereum in particular, allow you to create any kind of financial instrument from today's world without anyone's permission. So if the more people focus on just the limited quantity of tokens, the more people are missing this opportunity to create new kinds of applications that allow all sorts of things to be built. So I think, like, when I think of things that I can work on, one of the things that I try to look for is whether or not there's debt involved in the system, whether or not there's actually a way to use debt to align people's incentives.
Setup.
Oh, this is with the so in the back is in the I guess the consensus. We're trying to get consensus.
Just the WS.
So basically, if like the internet grid goes down, you can like charge hundreds of dollars.
Hey guys, I can hear you.
Oh, here it is.
But it also like stops the companies from normally right now, if your house produces more electricity than it consumes, the electricity company will actually pay you for however they take the cut out of that. With like apps like this, you can sell that electricity to your neighbors. Or they generate some credits.
So what is the answer to the question?
Oh, Niran, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
I'm not sure. I think you mentioned that it was using like a smart meter, like it has some sort of like ability to communicate with the internet. I'm not sure if they have custom built those like
Right? Can't be, it must be a special. Can't be
Probably
royalty,
is.
yeah.
Because if it was like a
Check, check.
regular one, you'd have to have like.
I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. We are back.
I guess you could hack your meter.
Projection.
Uh, let's leave it for you. I was gonna plug this in, but
Last video calling.
is it gonna work?
So it's an IoT.
Because yeah, it's pretty low volume. Oh.
Power. Got bigger.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna deal with this setup right now. So, Niran, I'm gonna pull you back to full screen, and we'll go back to the question we were on. Oh, here you are. Check, check. Okay. Sorry about all that. I think we're back. So if you wanted to answer the question on, what was it again?
Yeah, so I had a question on the
Credits and
debits,
debits.
especially concerning how they're valued, because I'm worried that you might run into a situation where somebody decides to consume energy at a higher rate, and then assuming these credits have some kind of standard value, then maybe they'll try to buy them back when essentially the credits are worth less because there's more energy being produced. Or maybe the same types of folks would wait for some huge amount of inflation to come up in the value of the underlying asset and try to pay everything off later. So, what's your system to kind of keep people squared up and to keep the producers paid fairly? Are these spot prices, are you using like spot prices kind of thing for the energy assets?
So that's a very good question. Being able to value energy over time is a complicated problem. And if you've noticed on your energy bill, like usually it's not valued over time. It's just a flat rate. It's just power. But the world that we're moving into, even from centralized energy companies, is a world where energy is valued differently over time. So for these producers, for these people who are producing renewable energy right now, it's not necessarily associated with the time that you produced it, even though it's basically people can end up getting screwed. But eventually, you'll have a way to say, hey, this was a debt for energy at this time, and the price to settle up, you'll have to settle up with credits for energy that were generated during that time period as well. So you'll have a market price for 1 o'clock energy and 2 o'clock energy and 3 o'clock energy, depending on how a particular market gets quantized in time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So I guess this might be a dumb question, but is there any physical integration of this system with the meter that's effectively measuring energy coming in and out from the consumer's home?
That's a very good question. So the smart meter that's being used in this project, I believe, has been modified directly to be able to talk to the Ethereum blockchain. So basically, it has this ability to say, hey, we're collecting this data from the smart meter, and then we're publishing that directly to the blockchain using a private key that only that device can access. So in a very real sense, the data is coming directly from a smart meter to the blockchain.
Excellent, thank you.
So what's a typical setup look like? Is it just solar panels and a full Ethereum node and some cables, or?
So I personally have not seen what the setup looks like, but I believe it's just a solar panel setup, a smart grid, a smart meter, and Ethereum node.
It's really simple. Any other questions?
So I saw ComEd as one of the providers. I'm thinking you're a little, I don't know if that was a real page or the mock-up. So I imagine you need some kind of broker to go between any individual network you're setting up and then the main power company. Yeah.
So in the real world, it's a very messy problem because the way that today's renewable energy producers, if you put solar panels on your home today and started producing energy, surplus energy that you weren't using in your home, different energy providers deal with that in different ways. The most popular way is called net metering, where if you produce 5 kilowatt hours of energy, they'll just deduct 5 kilowatt hours of energy from your bill. So to actually deal with that in a way where you can produce surplus energy but not get credited by your power company, but instead sell that directly to your neighbor is complicated. But as time goes on, as this infrastructure gets built out, you'll be able to, your energy company will actually be participating in this marketplace and will say, hey, we know you produce this extra energy, but we see here that you sold it to this person, etc. The energy company, it's going to be a long time before energy companies get out of the business of billing customers and making sure all the numbers add up. But over time, it'll be better for them if they can take advantage of the energy that their consumers want to produce and sell to other people.
So this is less disintermediation, and there's actually an attempt to reach out to these energy companies to say, hey, get on this new system, let's work together.
That's correct, and I think that's very true across the economy right now. Like, no matter what you're doing for your day job, if you work for any company of significant size, there's probably some way that the blockchain revolution is going to affect how their business works, how their business model needs to adapt to enable it to make sure that they can keep making money over time. If you're working in a large company that does not have a blockchain initiative and they deal in economics, which is every business ever, to not know how blockchains are going to affect a business is untenable. So basically, we talk to as many companies as we can to try to make sure that they have what they need to make sure their businesses can continue to be profitable as they move forward. We are not trying to target big companies and say, hey, we're going to make sure you don't make money anymore. We're going to say, hey, there's this change that's happening. It is unavoidable. It is like the internet, where at first there were internet businesses, but now they're just businesses. Every business is on the internet. Right now there are blockchain businesses. We're moving to a world where every business will be a blockchain business because it's the fundamental fabric of our economy. So we try to help people transition to that world, including big established companies.
Awesome. Cool. Other questions?
Hey, what's next for the Transactive Grid? I saw the stage 2, but more subscribers, larger, better, bigger. Where are we doing?
So I actually don't know the status of that project right now. We remain very interested in energy, and we try to talk to as many people as we can about how to make sure that we can help them transition to a blockchain economy. But I don't know about that particular deployment. I don't know what's next.
Cool. So I guess one of my last questions, you work for ConsenSys, and ConsenSys is like this conglomerate of blockchain efforts going on all at the same time in all different fields across the board. And it just seems pretty crazy some of the time how many projects are going on at once. What's been your experience with ConsenSys and collaborating with the people there?
It's crazy, but it's amazing. Like I remember that freshman year of college experience where it's like, hey, there's so much new stuff, so many people to talk to, so much stuff to learn. And it's kind of that, except in Slack, also in person sometimes. But like there are all these different people working on all these different kinds of projects, and you're kind of jacked into every development in the blockchain space, and being able to pursue your personal interests while being tied into all these other things people are doing really amplifies the ability to make progress, to build things that are going to have an impact on the world. So it's crazy, but it's fantastic.
Awesome. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, you said connecting houses together in order to sell internet. I'm sorry, to sell electricity from house to house. You say it's difficult. Are you implying that means like you have to run your own separate cables? And if so, like if let's say this were to take off, does the existing electricity grid have to be, you know, built again basically, or is there some way to eventually use the existing infrastructure to accomplish this?
So you can definitely use the existing infrastructure to accomplish this. For that pilot project, they do have slightly different infrastructure. They have a microgrid that can be disconnected from the main grid, so it can operate in isolation in case of emergency, disaster, etc. So that's one way it's different. But on a traditional, normal electricity grid, it's really just a big accounting problem. Some people are producing energy and putting credits on the network. Some people are consuming energy and basically racking up debts. So if you have this, even if you have a normal energy infrastructure, you're just trying to record how much energy is being created and used, whether it's a smart meter, whether it's a dumb meter. If you can measure how much energy is being produced and consumed at various points of the network, you can have the ability to charge people what needs to be charged. And if your energy company is participating in this network, they can say, are we back? I cannot see you guys, if you can see me. Can you hear me? Hello.